Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started here. My name is Marcelo with We Are Wellness, and just a little bit about us. We provide you with the highest level of individualized service for all of your corporate needs. This includes wellness plans, biometric screenings, corporate health fairs, incentive programs, and much, much more. Today, we're going to be going over how to drive engagement and simplify your health strategy in the workplace. And we have FitLyfe here to help us out with that. They're one of our partners and definitely wellness experts. So FitLife's going to be able to provide you guys with a lot of really, really valuable information. Just a couple important reminders before we do get started. If you do have any questions, please go ahead and type those into the chat box. All of your questions will be answered at the end. We are also going to be sending out a follow-up email to recap everything we've discussed here today, and that's going to include a recording of the webinar. So Sam, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you now. Take it away.
Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'd like to take you through the journey on how to drive engagement and simplify your health strategy in the workplace. So bear with me, before I begin, bear with me for a moment as I put our discussion in context. Does everyone here remember how it looks like when book an airline ticket? It used to be look like when booking an airline ticket. You wanted to get to Philly by 10 o'clock. You call the airline agent. The agent says, I have an 8:30 flight for 10 o'clock. No, my meeting is 10 o'clock. I need to be earlier. Then, well, there's a 6 o'clock flight. Well, that's a first class only. I can't get this approved. And then it goes back and forth, and it's very time consuming. So what the airline did, they got together and then they said, we're going to have to simplify this. And then that's where it started with Orbit. And what Orbit did, they put everything, all the pricing, availability, and schedule everything in the consumer hand to engage the consumer and to take to reduce the management cost. So what that did to the industry, it's the platform strategy simplified the management, the Orbit platform, and improve the bottom line and reduce the management cost, improve sustainable top line improvement. So there are many benefits from the platform approach. What if in wellness? So you have the vendors that are really specialized in what they do. For example, here's a sample of the vendors: Weight Watcher, Fitbit, Alere, and kind of a BioIQ, an example for that. So every one of those vendors, they have a specialty. However, the challenge with that is my member wants to go biometric screening, then they go to one vendor. If they want to go to Weight Watcher, then do we offer Weight Watcher? Do we get to Weight Watcher? So it's kind of it generates a lot of confusions for member, and in many cases it disengage because member won't seek or look for the information. They want the information, the expectations, the information comes to them and in front of them. The biggest challenge also, the program admin limited ability to piece this data together because each vendor, they provide the reports, provide the tools for only within their domain. And then that's how it's structured. So the same model was applied to wellness management. What if we take this and simplify it in the platform approach? Very similar to what the airline did. So the FitLyfe platform, basically, it simplified the engagement, the access to the wellness programs. At the same time, it makes it a lot easier for the wellness manager to focus on the insight and higher value to achieve the effectiveness. So the member here can log in, they can see their schedule, they have all the information that they need. And it, in fact, in many cases, it's relevant to what their risk profile looks like. So let's dive deep into how that works. We brought a complicated case where fragmented programs, and then we simplify it and we put it in the FitLyfe platform. With that simplicity drive improvement and flexibility to configure plan design. So we're going to dive into how many plan designs can we go with the strategy for the plan designs, and so on. The functionality that collect the data from a different data source will drive the user experience. That's how the user experience get built. That's how that personalization gets built, and so on. The scalability, this is where you can move from a basic program all the way to the health contingent outcome-based design. And then that flexibility to drive the bottom line engagement, not only engagement, but depending on the goal and strategy, you need to have this flexibility in order to accommodate to your strategy. Of course, kind of when you have everything in one place, that's definitely increase engagement. And we've seen it over and over and over. So I want to go through the different type of wellness management role today. Currently, we have the silo approach where you have your vendors, you have an on-site program, you're running a program on paper, you have a program that's provided with one vendor, you have a weight management, you have a financial wellness. So they're all over the place, and it's provided by a good vendor. However, the problem is they're not connected together. You don't know if it's working, if it's not working. Well, definitely spending the money, but is there any return? Is it where's that return is? And can I justify that to my management? That's where the challenge comes into. Well, another set of vendor came in, and then they said, we're going to provide you with this programs. Well, they solved one problem in the industry, but they introduce another problem. What they introduce is the limitation on the program. So if you don't use their program, then you're going to have to manage it outside their system. If you're going to have a different vendor, then it's going to be outside that system. And then you don't know if the effectiveness can happen or not. Now, this is where the private platform comes into the picture. The private platform basically taking the programs that is hard to manage from the best of the best vendors, and then take the program from the portal vendor and then put them into a platform, have all your data in one place, have analytics on top of it, and then this is where you can see the insight and choice, ultimately the effectiveness, which we're going to dive into in the next slide. But I wanted to indicate kind of the misconception in the industry between a portal and a platform. Many companies call their solution as a platform, but the reality is a platform has a different definition than a portal. A portal is a box, has a border. If you want to bring other data in it, if you want to bring other programs in it, it has to be very flexible to the point that you can customize it the way you want it per your plan design, and then you can get other programs within the system as you need it. Now with the platform, this is the definition of the platform. It's a foundation that you can add on top of it. It does have its own programs in there, but you can add programs on top of it. You don't have to manage it on a separate program or offline or with a different vendor. All of them comes into one place. That's really the difference between a portal and a platform. There's one more in here that I want to focus on also, the private platform. This is a critical because this is tailored towards you, and the system configuration is designed for you. The misconception here is technology is a strategy. No, technology is a tool to implement the strategy. With the right insight and effectiveness, with the right insight and choice, you can have a better outcome. So, what's the big payoff? The big payoff for the private platform model is you increase the ability to focus on the highest value your organization should expect from these increasingly important wellness initiatives and those insights that drive effectiveness. So it starts with the infrastructure and logistics. Infrastructure is technology. Technology doesn't improve health. Technology doesn't give you a better effectiveness or engagement. Technology is a tool, but you have to have the insight that drive better outcome and the good technology infrastructure that provides you a better outcome, a better choice. And infrastructure, like I said, it ranges from computer applications, systems, hardwares, and moving data back and forth. Logistics, that's where we talk about contracts, making sure that the data moves on time, and so on. Versus kind of the highest cost and very low return. And then if we focus more on the inside, the data, the different data sources that we capture, the data points that we capture, and then turn that into the insight because we align it with our goal, and we have the choice to choose what kind of program do we need to introduce or remove, and ultimately achieve that effectiveness that we need to achieve based on the goal we set up. So literally the highest level of return when you have a highest effectiveness on your programs. So there are different wellness strategies out there. I'm just going to list the top three or the common ones. It's nice to have the well-being programs and the outcome-based health contingents. So what are the difference between them? Well, the nice to have, it's really kind of more of a check the checkbox. We have a wellness program. It's part of our benefit package, and it's nice to have, but it doesn't focus on health reduction, health risks, and no personalization, and really focus more on boosting employee morale. So the next type, which is the well-being program, it's the next step up. It's focused on building awareness, increase member engagement, focus on shifting from a level of risk, and there are some risk mitigation in there. The weak personalization and evaluation, a little bit of return in it. And then the third model or third strategy comes into when you have the outcome-based health contingent. Well, what is the outcome-based? There are the program, the outcome-based when you dive into the biometric and then have a standard, alternative standards, and so on. That's where you call health contingent outcome-based design or outcome-based. You also have a hybrid model in there, which I'll talk about shortly. The more complex, this is the outcome-based is the most complex one. It's focused on risk reduction. It's focused on awareness. It's focused on high personalization. This is where you have the highest return in there. And it's focused a lot on the engagement. So this is kind of from the basic one to the most complicated and result-driven. And of course, the result-driven is tied to health premium and other funding levels, kind of a HSA, ASA, and so on. So depending on how you want to disperse that. So we talked about the strategy, the different wellness strategy. Now let's talk about after forming that strategy, you need to have the plan design based on one of the top strategies, one of the three strategies. After defining the plan design, that's where you need to align the communication strategy with the plan design. And that's where it has to be personalized to maximize engagement. It has to address a range of issues from basic well-being education all the way to the complex mitigation, risk mitigation. And competent technology is a very critical aspect of it to ensure awareness, compliance, process satisfaction, and so on. So the critical aspect here is to not to live with a limited technology mass produced for the mass. For the vendor client, and you have a limited capability of doing anything that you need to do for your population. That should not be at all a restriction on how you move your program to the next level. So we talked about the communication strategy. Now let's talk about the four flow of engagement, the identification. And then we're going to talk about detail on how to form the identification. But just to kind of summarize it now, it's finding the member to engage, reviewing their risk profile information. We have all the information that we collect and then we identify what the risk profile. Now I'm talking about the 4 pillars of engagement and relevant to the health contingent model. Now the recruitment, this is where you outreach to them. It's all through the technology, but and I'll show you later on a demo and also on the slides that to give you more information. Outreaching to members based on their disease risk state, program, and then approaching them. Now, the programs that need to be designed, you need to have the list programs based on your goals, your strategy, and how you can mitigate risks. And these programs could be ranges from tobacco cessation, ranges to weight management, ranges to financial wellness. It depends on what kind of programs that you want to introduce that's relevant more to your population. Your population is highly different from one company to another, depending on the age group, depending on the gender, depending on many criteria, the culture, the DNA of the company, and many criteria that forms the different programs that's needed. Now, the retention, keeping the member engaged, it's a very critical aspect with the right incentive amount and other rewards. So those are the 4 pillars of the platform is designed to keep the member engaged. Now, we talked about identification in the prior slide. Well, how can we do that? Some companies kind of call personalization by having the demographic data about the individual. Well, the reality is demographic is demographic. This is no personalization at all. But when we introduce a different data points, claims, activity data, prescription, activity data, we're talking about activities, steps, heart rate, sleep, weight, and so on. And then when you have the biometric data, medical history, all of them into one place, this is where you can have a better approach to a care coordination, the care plan diagnosis, things where get to diagnose through the data upload process. There are specific recommendations that can be done based on the member profile. What I mean profile is basically if they are their age, their gender, their last physician screening, and then give them the annual screening based on sets of standards. Now, as you know, there are many standards out there, but there are by different private companies, public companies, but there are one standard that the federal government established. It's called the U.S. Task Force, Preventative Task Force. And the U.S. Preventative Task Force, they said, well, this is based on this profile or this data, then this is the annual recommended screening. And then that's exactly what we do. We tap on that, and then we provide the accurate annual recommended screening. In addition, there's a way that if you want to start an earlier screening, you can do that within the platform as well. So we talked about the engagement, the strategy, and the plan design, and how to do the identification, and how we build personalization, and so on. But this is all good. But without having the insight, it would be very difficult to move on to the next step. What we do, we avoid or we remove it feels is good. The salesperson told me that if I use this program, I'm going to get really high return. And after 2 years, I'm not getting my return. But guess what? If you have the right data, if you're collecting the data, you have a solid foundation on what decision to make. And it's not getting the emotion out of it. It's become logical, and the data talk. Once you have the data in place that comes from different sources, then you have the insight that you need to select the program to provide the right program needed for your population. Of course, everything is based on the population. There's no one box fits all. That approach definitely doesn't work in wellness, and it's failed over and over and over. So let's talk about the power of choice. Once you get the programs, then you need to look into what FitLyfe platform can do. The FitLyfe platform, we have the programs within the platform, the external programs that come from the vendor programs, and then based on the data that's collected, then you can compare from one year to another. You can see the trend, you can see the improvement, you can see, and then based on that, you can make a decision if you want to keep that program, you want to adjust it, you want to remove it, you want to, whatever you need. The most important thing is you're not going to lose your data. So if the vendor leaves, then your data is still there, and you can still have aggregate data that you can see on the progress and what you can do to be more effective on the program. Now, why FitLyfe 360? We talked about personalization, but how we do the personalized journey, it's a unique thing because we collect that data. And that data, when it's collected, the system knows what content, what education, what messages, what programs to promote to the individual member based on their profile. The insight, that's exactly when you have all the data in one place and provide you with the insight that aligns more with your plan design and the strategy. I had a conversation with one of the wellness program manager yesterday, and he mentioned that I need my coaching is not working. And the first thing I asked him, well, have you collected this data? He said no. So what's the next step? He said, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out. So we took that. He's currently using a different vendor, but we start talking about the data points that he needs to collect in order to make a solid decision and adjust his coaching strategy and engagement. With the right data, you can easily avoid the emotional side of it, where there's no guessing anymore. It's data talk. So the data tells me what I need to do. Now, the plan flexibility, data hub, and self-service. Self-service, I'm kind of mentioned that the FitDoc as an example, which we're going to talk about as a case study, and also going to be talking about the scalability from a simple plan design all the way to the health contingent outcome-based design. Focus on engagement and how you can have a maximum return. It's harder to, even though it's harder to measure the return when you have the checkbox approach, but you can still have the engagement and how many people are engaged. What are people kind of doing wearables, challenges, and so on. Kind of the basic program. So simplicity, the more simple, the easier to engage people. When having everything in one place, definitely makes it easier for people to engage, and especially when it's promoted to them. Now, you probably ask kind of well, what's the next step for how can I solve this problem? How can I have the right approach for it? Well, we have a really unique approach to solving this problem and implement the solution. So what we do, we call something called wellness impact analysis, and we take the current wellness problems. If it's an employee engagement, if it's an unorganized data or narrowed wellness strategy, we really take the different aspects of it and analyze it, align it with your goal, and make those adjustments, streamlining processes, automate what needs to be automated, so you can focus on a much higher value task that has a much return, as we talked about in the value stack slide. Now, the outcome as a result of our analysis. That's where you have the deficiencies, opportunities, recommendation. Everything will be right in front of you based on. So you do have some blueprint on what's the next step need to happen. With that blueprint, that's kind of again, the emotional decision on if it's going to work or if it's not going to work, it's gone, because you have the more solid foundation that you can build on. And then when you go to implement that and then get the strategy implemented, then you know exactly how to adjust and how when it's needed and so on. So what's our approach to the wellness impact analysis? So we use a methodology called SOAP. The SOAP is widely used in the medical industry, and it focuses on subjective, objective analysis and prescribe. And each of the area set, for example, the subjective is kind of set the expectation, desired outcome. The objective kind of set the current result, what's the expectation from the current result, impediments, opportunities, and this is where we take that analysis and see where it can be more effective and what credible options you have. This prescribed, this is the result of the analysis, and then the greatest potential impact. So the way it's done, it's in interviews, getting the data from different programs, analyze it, and then this is where we generate the different opportunities that streamline your wellness initiatives. There's a case study that we've done last year on the Fortune 500 companies. They have 8 programs, 6 vendors, 12,000 eligible members, and then what we've done, 3 levels of interviews. The green color indicate that strong potential for success. So in this case, they have a program offering. They have pretty much kind of 8 programs, which is really good. They do have also the right incentive for it. However, the incentive is it's kind of you have a $500 for tobacco, but a $50 for biometric screening. So the incentive was not kind of distributed as they should do it, and according to the industry best practices. So that's why we classified it as yellow. It's moderate impact on potential return. So the same thing with engagement, because the challenge in here, they have pretty much a siloed approach. They do have a one portal vendor, but many of the programs were managed separately, and when they were managed separately, the visibility to the data was very weak, extremely weak. And then that's a challenge that they have. The executive support were very minimal, and that's why, because of they had some issues with until we were able to align the executive leadership goals, objectives, and then get them engaged into how they can get their messages across using the platform as a way to deliver their messages. So this is kind of a story that I wanted everybody's familiar with it. And it's about the biometric screening, and on the physician form, using the physician form. Everybody knows here kind of how challenging it is. Everybody knows it takes a long time. The biggest challenge is the complaint from users, and then the time that it takes to process it. The other challenge is the identity mix in different screenings, and then which generates the violation. The cost, the missed incentive because people could not get it on time, and so on. There are a lot more issues that generated from it. So what we've done, we noticed that there are so many issues with that, and we created something called FitDoc. What FitDoc does, it processes physician form pretty much less than a day. It processes on real time, but it's completed by less than a day. That's where the committed time is. The way it works is, you, as a member, log into the platform. I get my physician form there with pre-populated information. It has all my information in it. I take it to my physician. My physician completes the information, sign it, I sign it. And then as soon as I leave the physician, I take a picture of that physician form using the platform, either the mobile app or using the web mobile side of it. And then what that does, it verifies the member identity first, and then the second part, take the handwriting data and convert it on real time. So it's literally take the handwriting, all the biometric data, and it verifies if there's a signature, if there's no signature, and it stopped at that point if there's no signature. Now, the member will have the ability to verify the data before submission. All the pre-populated data that's done through the system, the member can verify that and then submit it. Once submitted, it goes to our customer service to validate an approval. And typically, that's why we said the committed time is less than 1 day, but it takes 1 minute or less. So what that did, it ensured the identity. Part of that, one of the reasons that we did that, because of the challenge some of the vendor process physician form, where they turned their mailbox into a physician form database. And that's where we get into from one of our clients who said, well, we got to have to solve this problem. And then that's how we created the FitDoc. So just to summarize before we dive into the demo, the FitLyfe 360 platform is a modular configuration. So if you want to need this program based on your plan design, and then that will build the individual member journey based on the programs that you offer within the system. It adjusts from the nice-to-have program all the way to health contingent outcome-based design using the biometric calculator, has a built-in functionality for FitDoc, suite of services, wellness services, the data warehouse and analytics, it's built in. And the reporting and insight module, it's also built in within the platform. So now I'm going to dive into the demo. We have pretty much about 10-15 minutes to dive into a demo. And I'd like to take that opportunity to show you kind of just a high level. The first thing is, everything here in the platform is customizable. From this verbiage to the logo to the menu, and if you have a single sign-on process, then you can adopt the single sign-on where people go to the company login, and then they put the information, username and password, and then the company sends us back that this person has been authenticated, and this is they can access the platform. That's what we call single sign-on. It's an interesting kind of what I had a conversation also yesterday. The person said, we have a single sign-on. Well, looking at it, wasn't even single sign-on. But the vendor told him that it's a single sign-on. The way that they told him is they selected their URL, which has the company name, and then that forward to the company portal system, and then they consider it as a single sign-on. So the misconception here, it's critical to understand what a single sign-on is and so on. The spouse typically don't get included in the single sign-on, so that's why we adopt to the spouse to manage their identity in here. So I'm going to log in here. Well, I'm going to log in here as a program admin. So let me show you kind of what program admin experience can see. One of the things that I want to mention also, every company, we have the common policy, common privacy policy in there. We do have however, each company might want to change this privacy policy, and where in the platform, you have the ability to do that. So it's a very, very highly flexible to do that. Now, once I log in, it starts based on if I need my incentive data, my personal goal, my data in here, and then all my challenges, my events, and so on. But we talked about targeted communication. We talked about aligning the communication strategy alongside with the plan design. And then that's exactly what we do. For example, in here, those events, the event starts with, who do you want to see that event? Is the event only to the associates? Then the widget will be visible only to the associates. Now, if they're available to every audience, then that event, who do you want to attend that event? And then will be only visible for the people that you want them to attend the event. at a certain location, at a certain audience, and so on. So that's how you can tailor the event. The best part of it is once you have the registration out of it, so once the person registers, the QR code gets generated where you can scan it on site. And then if there's any reward associated with it, you can, the platform will automatically award the individual based on the attendance. Now, everything here is here in managed through the platform, of course. The menu in here is a kind of a more of an admin menu that I can log in, but everything that you see in here, it's a member experience. I have not dived into the admin side of it at all. You can add it to your calendar. The system will send you a reminder. The system will send you a calendar invite. Also, you can have your handout download, all the information that you have in here you'd like to promote to the vendor. Now, this is kind of if you want to search more about events, you can do that as well. But again, kind of everything here is tailored for the different programs that you want to achieve or deliver. That's why we talked about why you need to select your wellness strategy. Based on the wellness strategy, then you select your the plan design, then align that with the communication strategy, and then go find that the platform literally accommodates to your that. It's so flexible that if you don't want to have an outcome-based design, then you can simply get rid of this widget by not having the outcome-based design. So it's a very simple way to do it. At the same time, as we collect that data, if it's wearable, if it is depending on where the data coming from, then certain promotional content will be promoted to the individual. Now, there's health education spot in here. It's hidden because that program is not visible to the member. Versus this recipe is actually it's tailored to that individual profile. It goes based on the if they have a high BMI or if they have a hypertension, and then certain recipes get promoted to them based on their risk profile. So that's where I talk about having all your data in one place. And based on that data, you can get the insight. I can generate that insight from the insight manager, or I can generate the reports that I need. It's really easy to edit or adjust or accommodate every single widget in here. If you want to have, from a personal standpoint, if you want personal goal, if you want to have even configure this side, the meter in here, all you need is to flip the widget and then kind of you can configure those to different goals, and then you're done. Kind of the next time you come to this widget, it's according to your own configuration. So it's very, very highly configurable and customizable based on your needs. Those widgets moves up and down and collapsible also. So it accommodates, and you can save it. So the next time you come in, you can see exactly what you need. The challenges ranges from, it's kind of a dive into the challenge in here. The challenge ranges from hydration challenge, the weight challenge, fitness challenge, and habit challenge. Each one of them has a different measurement, different goal setting, and then different way to measure it. Of course, we're very transparent to the member, where we tell them that if this is a self-reported data, or if it came from a wearable device. It depends on where the data came from. Of course, there's a leaders board, and everything here, all this menu item is defined from the challenge configuration side. So as a program admin, I log into one place, either from my desktop or my device. I can see who attended from events. I can run reports. I can get insight on my programs. I can see the effectiveness of the program. Everything here in one place. And if you want to add your own widget, we can simply add that widget for you to adapt your program, whatever program that you need to have. There are so many programs that we have in here that you can turn it on, turn it off, and offer it to a certain population, or kind of offer to everyone in the population. So it really depends on where you who you want to offer to. Now, there these kind of a widget in here where you can kind of have things you can do or offer them within the system. This is where you have the you can make those links visible to a certain audience, not only the widget itself, but the links within it. And also, you can also configure the annual list to do. You can change the widget name, again, kind of move it up and down and save the setting. The health points, you can it's very, very highly configurable. And also in here, there's one health risk for that individual, but we also track the health risk assessment. We have a health risk assessment. We have the annual recommended screening, and many other programs that we talked about during the presentation. I want to also talk about the few things in here about the wearable devices. So what we do, we connect directly with the manufacturer. If that's going to be Fitbit or if it's going to be a Garmin, the manufacturer, we connect directly with them. And then with that being said, we did it for a purpose. The purpose is we're very transparent from where the data goes. The misconception in there, sometimes you have a third-party vendor where the data gets stored in that third party, but the member doesn't know that their data is stored in the third party. And then maintaining that privacy is critically important to make sure that your data are in one place. And not only that, but the member knows where their data are. One of the things that from a member profile, the member can manage their setting into if they want to give access to the coach, the preference from a communication standpoint, security. There's a secure messages in here. There are many ways that the vendor the member communicate with a coach, and with a coach or with the program admin using secure messages. And when things get awarded, member gets notified, or if we don't get activities, the member did not report any activities or did not sync their wearable device, then we communicate back to them. So the amount of automation involved in here is way too significant that avoid the manual things, and then that focus more aligning your strategy, your plan design alongside with the technology. I'll open for, there are a lot more in the platform, and then we can schedule time one-on-one to go through a private demo as well. And we'll open it now for any questions.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, if anybody has any questions, please go ahead and type those into the chat box now. We did have a few come in. Sam, is there a minimum number of employees needed to get started on the platform?
Yes and no. I'm sorry. Typically the platform is designed for self-insured employer group, and the self-insured typically start at from 300, 600 employees. However, if you want to go to 100 employees, absolutely you can do that. So there's no problem with that. If the company are able to offer the wellness program, absolutely you can do that. And then the nice thing about it, what we did, we designed it first to an enterprise company. And then with the amount of automation that we introduced over the years, what we've done is give the power back to the program admin where they can configure things as they need it. Of course, everybody gets an account manager assigned to them, but the critical aspect of it, the amount of flexibility that they can do or configuration they can do within the platform.
Okay, perfect. And how long does the setup process normally take?
Frankly, the setup process takes between, 2 weeks to 3 months, depending on the program offer, depending on 2 weeks. For example, if you want to have just an out-of-the-box configuration, a basic configuration, a 3 month if you'd like to migrate all your biometric data from your current vendor, depending on how fast your vendor moves, we move according to that speed. So depending on if you want to have it, if your claim data, depending on what kind of data that you want to pour into the platform, and also the configuration. So there are so many moving parts in the platform. The basic configuration, it's kind of it's out of the box configured and so on. But the amount of flexibility in the platform, and then how we can align it with your plan design and build that individual journey, that takes time as we build that data.
Okay, great. And if somebody wanted a one-on-one demo or wanted a quote, how would they go about doing that?
I put the Billy's information various on the slide. So Billy, basically, you can reach out to Billy, and we can schedule a time with them.
Perfect. All right. Those are all the questions we had for now. So I just wanted to remind everybody that you will be receiving an email from us tomorrow, just a follow-up to the webinar along with the recording. And I just want to thank everybody for attending, and thank you, Sam, for doing such a great job presenting.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.